we're going to be doing with the muscle energy. Oh, I know, the pubic symphysis. So that's the other one in this group. So basically, the way that folks in applied kinesiology figure out whether there's a subluxated pubic symphysis is to see how well the legs hold together, to see how well the adductor works. So his works well. Usually there's a weakness that shows up. Sometimes it's easier to hold one leg and just hold in with this one. Yeah. So basically you can test it however you want, but that is one way to figure it out. But and I like that because palpating exactly where the pubic bone is in relation to everything else is just kind of difficult.
Does a little weakness show up bilaterally, or will it be on one side or the other?
If you're stabilizing one leg, you'll only see it on one side. But if you're using both, you'll usually see the weakness on both sides. Oh, one of the ways you'll be alerted to this as an issue is that you'll correct the femur, and the tensor fasciolata will be stronger, but the iliopsoas won't. It won't strengthen up all the way. Well, it's close enough to the pubic symphysis that it can be inhibited by the pubic symphysis problem also, right? So that's one of the things that keys you to think, well, let's see if we help the pubic symphysis if they do better, right? So bring both knees up. The muscle energy technique for the pubic symphysis is pretty simple. Let me have room for my arm here. Okay, so you gently press in toward the midline. Good. And then you gently press out against my arms.
Should their feet be together for that?
It can be, doesn't matter.
Yep. Doesn't matter.
And press in. And press out. Yeah. So basically going back and forth a couple times, the muscle tension resets the relative position of the parts of the pubic symphysis.
Got a little click on, I think on the first one.
We did,
Pull it
okay.
together, yeah.
Yes, it's not intended to create an osseous release, but yeah, and chiropractors do often a quick one, but this is the muscle energy technique.
That's called the pubic symphony.
Okay, so the two muscle energy techniques that we're going to focus on for the knee are actually easiest to evaluate when the patient's face down. Face down. And we're going to look at and correct the most common misalignment of the tibia and the most common misalignment of the fibula. So basically, when the femur is externally rotated, and these are often the people that walk like a duck, they've got their foot out, there's also a rotational pattern at the knee. So the tibia is tending to rotate laterally. And you can do rolling it in and rolling it out to see which one it's doing. What I tend to do is just go right to the area where I would pick up the dysfunction at the front of the knee. And so what I do is we might expect it more on this side where he had the problem, where he had the femur restricted. So if I come down right at where I've got my finger right on the crease of the joint here, and I can feel some resistance where it's not easy for it to glide into extension right at that place. In other words, it feels like it's not fully setting in. So it feels like it's not fully setting in here, all right? It's not extending right there. And I'm going to compare that, for example, to this other side. And I'm going to feel the same joint. And it just gives and glides the entire way on this side. So if you contact at that same location, and you're going to internally rotate the tibia a little bit, and now I'm going to have you press your heel up toward the ceiling as though you're going to bend your knee a little bit, just gently. 2, 3, 4, and release. Good. And I'm just picking up where the resistance is again, and go up toward the ceiling again. 2, 3, 4, and release. Yes. And now I can feel the full glide. Sometimes you'll need to do it 2, 3, 4 times. But basically, you can get that part of the joint to glide and go into extension, and you've corrected the rotational subluxation of the tibia, which ends up acting like it's an extension subluxation right at the inner part of the joint. Does that make sense?
So the restriction was on the medial side?
You feel the restriction on the medial side because when it's externally laterally rotated, it won't drop in there. So yeah, that's exactly where you feel on the medial side.
So it's correct, you internally rotated?
I take the laterally rotated tibia and I medially rotate it and then ask it to extend using the contractor lax. And you may see this fairly frequently when you have a patient that has a medial knee tendonitis. So this is one of the things that will perpetuate the medial knee tendonitis. So it's one of the things to look for under those circumstances. Now, when they're having posterior knee pain, it can be centered at the tibia or it can be centered here. The patient may say that they can't fully flex the knee. All right? So basically, if they can't fully flex the knee, essentially you feel for where the glide is restricted. And I'm just going to check this on both sides. He has a tiny bit of fibula restriction there. Oh, that's really easy movement here. Yeah, no restriction here. So essentially the tibia and the fibula are moving really well on that side. The tibia is moving well on this side. There's a tiny bit of fibula restriction. So if you can imagine, if the tibia is rotated laterally, sometimes the fibula goes a little bit posterior and doesn't flex as easily on the same side. So that is what's happening on this particular patient. So what you can do here is that you can put your thumb into the head of the fibula, and you can flex the knee, and you can ask the patient to gently extend, 2, 3, 4, and release it. Yeah, that's good. And then you feel into the resistance, and again, 2, 3, 4, and release. And you feel into the resistance again. Okay, 2, 3, 4, and release. Yeah, now I can't feel it. Everything glides now, and I can't feel any restriction there. So that's a fibular release. And if this one perpetuates, I look at whether the patient's shoes are worn down and they're over-supinating at heel strike and they tighten up their peroneus and it keeps pulling the fibula off track. But that's what we use with that area. And I'm going to go